All right, so here we are, 3.2. Oh yeah, this is a major one. Oh yeah. All right, so we are to the big stuff here. All right, so we are dividing up A, B, and C. Andre, Bobby, and Chad are dividing an estate consisting of a house, a small farm, and a painting. Using the method of sealed bids, their bids on each of the items are given to the table to the right. Use this information to finish the problem. Okay, so remember what this chapter is about. This is all exam number 2. That's not on today's test. We'll take today's test at maybe 1 o'clock. Ooh, I better get moving. Yeah, so about 1 o'clock we'll take today's test. That way, just when you finish, you can just go, and everybody doesn't have to wait for everybody. So that's why we're doing it at the end. Otherwise, if we did it in the beginning, then we'd have to come back, and everybody wait for everybody. So, all right, so we'll do it that way. So this chapter, chapter 3, is all about how do you divide things fairly, right? Remember, this class is about math to help things in the real world. So this is, how can math help people divide stuff fairly? And we already talked about how really the best thing is if they all just got along and talked, but real life that isn't always the case. There's hostile situations. So the math is supposed to try to force fairness even when there's hostile situations. So this is my favorite one, the example of it. It's the most painful though as far as number crunching. Get your calculator ready, a lot of number crunching here. So this is called the method of sealed bids. This is what a lawyer could do, for example, if he was in charge of administering the estate. Suppose you got these 3 kids that their parents have died and they left them all the stuff, and they got the house, the small farm, and the painting. How are you going to divide those fairly? How are you going to do that? You see, the problem is different people have different value systems. You understand what I'm saying about that? Different people feel differently about things, right? Maybe Bobby just loves the house. He has warm memories of there. Andre loves the farm because that's the kind of person he is. Whatever. So not everybody values everything fairly. You can't just, assume. Well, fairness is fair in their eyes. So here's the method. It's called sealed bids. Basically, the lawyer would tell each of the 3, Bobby, Andre, and Chad, you tell me what you think it's worth. And they, on their own, sealed, it's kept private from each other, they write down what they think it's worth. So Bobby, when he writes this $147,000 right there, so I encourage you, write that down on your paper right there. You want to get this down. We're going to go through all the details. You're going to want to see this. Don't just watch me. That won't help you, right? Even if you don't get everything. I've watched many math lectures I didn't understand. About half the math lectures I watched I didn't understand. But I would get them all down at least. Every jot, every tittle. And then later, I would pore over them with hours of my life. That's what it takes, really. I mean, I'm a math guy, right? I came right out of the womb, and all the math was already in my head. No, that's what people act like. That's not true at all in society. And that rumor, if you believe it, will harm you. Because you'll think, well, I'm just not a math person, so I just can't do math. No, you can do math. Question is, will you do the math, right? You can. You might, some people are quicker and some are slower. But you can do it. So track with me, right? If you're not even writing it down, you're not even trying to do the math. So write all that down, or at least the table. You don't need all this stuff, but write down the table. That's all you really need is that table. Those exact numbers. We're going to work through the exact numbers on that. All right. Well, I guess you have it on the YouTube thing too, huh? Anyway, whatever, right? You all know you can go back and watch it on the YouTube. So, because these are going to be hard. These are the hardest questions in this chapter. These sealed bid ones. So, everybody writes down what they think things are worth. So Bobby's saying, I think the house is worth $147,000. I think the farm's worth $438,000, and I think the painting is worth $54,000. Their mom was a really good painter, I guess. I don't know what that is. Anyway, some kind of painting they bought. So, all right, now Andre feels differently. Well, he feels the same about the house, but he thinks the farm is worth a little less, and the painting's worth a little more. Chad thinks the house is worth a little more, farm's worth a little less, and painting's less. So anyway, whatever. They can write whatever they want. Whatever they want. You'll see that the beauty of this method is that if people try to cheat the system, they can't. It forces them to be honest in their bidding. If they're dishonest, if they do something to try to scam the system, it'll bite them in the behind. It'll really hurt them. I'll show you. You'll see how it plays out. It forces fairness. I'll show you, even for hostile parties. So, okay. So how does it work? What do you do? Well, basically they're going to come on down. They're going to say, so, oh, I don't even know what the first question is. I don't know what all I'm going to ignore all this stuff. I'm just going to say, so who gets, well, no, I better go back. Now, first question is, okay, who gets the house? That's the first question. How does this, so the lawyer asks each of the three people to write on a piece of paper what they think the things are worth. They're sealed, they're set, they don't talk with each other. They just all turn them into the lawyer. Lawyer opens them up. Here's the simple process the lawyer follows. He looks at him and he says, all right, who gets the house? Whoever bids highest on the house gets it. They're going to get the house. Whoever bids highest. So who bid the highest on the house? Everybody see it up there? Who put the highest number on the house? So here, the house is this top line. Right? The house is across the top. It's this number, and this number, right? And so Chad put the highest on the house. Right? 150,000? So Chad, that's why I've already answered the questions on my version. Chad got the house because he bid the highest. Does that make sense?
It just sounds normal, like house sales,
Sure.
Highest bidder.
Highest bidder gets it. Next one. Does the player who gets the house pay money to or get money from the estate? Yeah, good question. Oh, we have to do all that right now? Okay, I guess we do. I thought we were going to kind of ease in. I guess not. All right, so what does that all mean? Let me show you. So we have to make this big old table over here underneath the thing. I think I'm gonna make it bigger. I don't have enough room to write there, so I'm gonna make it a little bigger. So I'm gonna say, okay, right here. So, and I'm gonna go across the top. So 147,000. Next one's also 147,000. And the third one was what, 150? Okay, I'm just going to rewrite it here so I have more room. And that is Bobby. Let's say put them in alphabetical order. Andre and Chad. Okay, and that's the house on the first line. It's the farm on the second. What's that? 438 and 435 and 420. And that was for the farm. And the painting is 54 and 60 and 51. Okay. Now, we have to figure out, first off, what is fair for each of these guys. What a fair share. So, how do we know what Bobby, Bobby is this first column. All these numbers are this Bobby, right? What would be, for the whole thing, I mean the whole inheritance, all three things, the whole inheritance, what would Bobby think is a fair share for him?
What he thinks.
Remember how we do that? Remember what we were doing yesterday on these? Add them all up and divide by 3. Because there's 3 people, right? Add Bobby's up. Bobby's opinion. We're just doing Bobby. Remember, everybody put their glasses on. So we're doing Bobby right now. So add up Bobby's 3 numbers. So if you add up, and I'll write, that's called the fair share for that person. The fair share. Somebody have I should have brought my calculator. Somebody leave their calculator up here? It'll work. I'll use it. It's perfect. All right. Not mine, but it's kind of sticky. All right. So 147, 438, 54 equals, divide by 3, 164,000. Now, what did I do there for the fair? I add up vertically, divide by 3. Everybody see what I'm doing for the fair? For all the fair, I added these up vertically and divided by 3. That's how I got that 164. I'm kind of scribbly out there, sorry. Try that again. So for the fair, for what's fair, add vertically, divide by 3. So what's the next guy? 147, 435, 60, divided by 3, 214. And the last guy, 150. You can just skip all the zeros at the back, guys. Right? They all have 3 zeros at the back. So you can just skip that. Do you know what I mean? When you do your calculator, want to save a little time? Right, everybody see how I'm getting these numbers? I added vertically, divide by 3. Add vertically, divide by 3, add vertically, divide by 3. Why? Because that's a fair share for those people, isn't it? You definitely, you know what I would do on the next exam? This is going to be exam 2 next week. Put a whole one of these on your 3x5 card. Because this is the hardest thing we're going to do on the next exam. This is the hardest chapter in the course. This chapter, chapter 3, it's the mess. And this is like one of the hardest things we'll do probably the whole summer. This is a messy one, real messy, a lot of numbers and everything. So put the whole thing right in your card. You can put a whole example on there. So I just added them up and divided by 3. So remember, because that's fair, right? Because what? Because when you add them all up, that's what Bobby thinks the whole thing is worth. And so if you divide by 3, that's what he thinks his fair share should be, right? 1/3 of the whole thing. Do you get that? Does that make sense? I'll do you more good if I can make it make sense for you than just steps that you imitate. Kind of monkey see, monkey do. You want to get it, and it'll stick better with you. Does that make sense? That feel right? Right? If I add up all the numbers for Bobby, that's the total value he thinks it's all worth. Then divide by 3, that's a fair share for Bobby and for Andre and for Chad. Okay, so there's their fair share numbers. That's what they think is fair. Now, so what does that mean? Bless you. How much, now if we're giving Chad the house, right? Let's go back over where we were at here. We're giving Chad the house, right? Because he was the highest bidder on the house. So what does Chad think about that? We gave him the house. How much money does he think we gave him? How much value does Chad think we gave him when we gave him the house? Yeah, Chad said, I think the house is worth $150,000. And we said, you can have the house, Chad. So he thinks, oh, they gave me $150,000 worth of stuff. That's what Chad thinks. Chad could have written any number he wants there. That's Chad's writing. That's what Chad thinks, right? See how the lawyer's blameless. He's like, Chad, you wrote that. If you don't agree, you shouldn't have written that. That's what Chad thinks the house is worth. So, okay, now what does Chad think is a fair share for Chad? 207. So, if you just gave him the house, and that's all, would he think he was treated fairly? No, he needs more, right? Because he thinks he should get $207,000 worth of stuff, and he'll get a fair deal. So if you just give him the house, $150,000, you're going to have to also give him some cash. We'll talk about the cash thing in a minute. You're going to have to give him the house, and then some cash, right? He's going to need for him to feel fair. Remember, the deal is when we're all done, everybody will feel by their value system they were treated fairly. That's the goal of this method. So we're going to have to give Chad some cash on top of the house, right? That's what they're asking right here. Does the player, if you can read it, who gets the house pay money or get money? See, people that are we'll get to that. The answer is, the green is the answer. I answered it wrong. The player gets money. The player gets money. I mean, Chad is going to get money. Going to get the house, and he's going to get some cash. We haven't talked about how much yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's keep going. Next question. Who gets the farm? Who gets the farm? Maybe I'll make that a different color here. So look up at the numbers. Who's getting the farm? Who bid the highest on the farm? Farm, here's the 3 farm numbers. Who went the highest on the farm? Bobby did. So Bobby gets the farm. Farm goes to Bobby. Now you might think, wow, we just gave Bobby the farm, $438,000 worth of value. I mean, Andre should have just bid 4,000 more or something, just bid higher. So all you can do is just write down a higher number and you get that thing? Well, no, it's not that simple. It'll bite you in the bottom if you try that. We'll see. It's going to reconcile in the end. And if you artificially wrote high, you'll wish you hadn't. We'll see in the end what happens. So, we give Bobby the farm. Bobby feels like we gave him $438,000 worth of stuff. What does Bobby feel he should get? Total value fair share. 164. So he thinks, wow, they gave me way more than a fair share.
And
right?
I'm going to assume
Carl.
the difference.
Carl, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to assume the difference
He's got it.
out,
Yes,
you-
exactly.
you know, you get
That's
money.
right.
Okay.
So we gave Bobby way too much. Bobby thinks in his own value system. So Bobby's going to have to pay us a bunch of cash back, isn't he? Because we're going to come down to fair. So we're going to have to subtract those. In a little bit, we'll get into those numbers. We're going to have to subtract those, and Bobby's going to have to pay back, isn't he? Because he's been given too much. So we're going to be reconciling this with cash transactions back and forth. Do you see now the risk of writing too high? If you write like $500,000 here, well, then you're going to have to pay back the difference. So you're motivated to be honest.
What about if you just write something down really low?
Yeah.
Like, not like incredibly low, but just like.
If you lowball your numbers, remember you're going to add them up and divide by 3. You'll have a low fair share.
You won't get much.
Yeah, you'll be saying, I don't think that stuff's worth anything. 1/3 of add these and divide by 3 will be a really low share. You'll mess up your own fair share. You won't get much.
And that's
So it's-
why I see.
Yeah, so
parties.
I think it's the smartest thing they came up with in this chapter. It just forces fairness on both ends. You don't want to write down too high because you're going to have to pay back when you're given stuff. And you don't want to write down too low because then your own fair share will be super low and you won't get much. You're constrained to be honest. That's what this is all about, right? That a lawyer could use even when kids are hostile and people are mad about whatever. All right, write down what you think it's worth. You better be honest or you're going to wish you had, right? All that you honestly think the stuff is worth, the method will work it out. All right, so Bobby gets the farm, and Bobby, at first they're not going to make us do all the details. They're just going to say, okay, who gets the farm? Bobby. Does he pay back or get more? They're not going to do the numbers yet. So Bobby pays back some money, pays back some dollars, right? Good to there so far? Final one, the painting. Bless you. Who gets the painting? Andre. He bid the highest on the painting. Now, careful. It's sometimes one guy will get all 3 items or 2 items. It doesn't have to be 1 item per person. That's just a coincidence that happened. I wish they made an example off the bat that didn't do that, so you didn't get that idea in your head. It's not. It's just whoever bid highest. If Chad bid highest on everything, we're going to give Chad everything, and then he's going to pay a ton of money back in cash is what will happen. So it's not necessarily the case. Everybody hear me on that? It doesn't have to be 1 item per person. Sometimes there's 3 items and only 2 people, or 3 people and only 2 items. Not everybody gets an item. That's just a coincidence on this one. So Andre bid the highest on the painting. So the painting is going to Andre. Now, is Andre going to pay money back into the estate? Or is he going to take out? We got to reconcile Andre and bring him to fair share. What does Andre think we've given him? When we handed him the painting, he said, you gave me 60. His fair share is 214.
He's going to get money.
We owe him money, which basically Bobby's going to pay him. That's what's going to effectively happen. Bobby's paying in. Chad and Andre are taking out. You see how it's going to work? So, yeah, he's going to get back. Not pay back, but get back some money. Everybody tracking with me on that? So that's now this problem. We have like 2 more big rounds to go on this one problem. It happens in like 3 rounds. First round, you pass out the stuff. So we just gave, Chad the house, Bobby the farm, and Andre the painting. We just gave it to them, and then we said, all right, Andre and Chad, we're going to pay you money back because you didn't get enough. You didn't get your fair share. And Bobby, you owe us a bunch of money back into the estate because you got way more than what you thought was fair. So you owe the estate money. Now, round 2, you start reconciling the money. Are we ready for more? Are we good to there? Making sense so far? All right, so I'm going to go now to the other question. Let's do number 3. It's a nice, easier one. And we'll wrap up with number 2. So number 3, jumping forward to number 3. ABC, Ann, Betty, and Chia own a flower shop. They can't get along anymore. Decide to break up the partnership using the method of sealed bids with the understanding that one of them will get the flower shop and the other 2 will get cash. Ann bids $330, Betty $360, Chia bids $300. How much money do Ann and Chia each get from Betty for their 3rd share of the flower shop? So you see what's going on there? They're bidding on the flower shop. This is a 1-item deal. So let's make a table with it. So do the people go on the top? How do we do it? Yeah, the people go on the top. Yeah. So we got A, B, and C. We got Ann, Betty, and Chia. All right, and we got their bids. What did Ann bid? 330. Betty bid 360. Chia bid 300. Okay, so there's their bids. Bids. That's messy. Okay, now, so first, is everybody good so far? Who gets the flower shop?
Betty.
Yeah, Betty bid the highest. Sealed bids, they didn't know. Turn them in. Betty gets the flower shop. Betty alone gets the flower shop. Now, next, remember how the tables go. So this is why I encourage you to write one of these entire ones on your 3x5 card for the exam next week, because it'll make life easy, because you got to remember what's next. What's next on the table is a fair share. Normally for fair share, when there's several items, there's only one item here. Normally when there's several items, you've got to add them all up and divide by 3, right? For a fair share, right? For 3 people. So this time, there's only one item. So just divide by 3. There's nothing to add up. Just divide by 3. See, if you divide this one by 3, I'm just going to do the math quick. Get 110. Here you get 120. Here you get 100,000. That's what they think, they each think is a fair share. Are you tracking with me? Right? Divide by 3, right? Because they should get 1/3 of the profit. That's fair. 1/3 of the value, I mean. That's fair. You tracking? Now, what comes next? I don't know. Oh, then what they pay or get. Right? Next comes what they pay or get. How do you figure that out? You take what they get minus fair. Right? You take whatever they get minus what's fair. Remember how we did that? What they get minus what's fair? Okay. So what does Ann get? What does Ann get? What? Ann gets nothing. Ann does not get the flower shop. Remember items. We're talking about items first.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Get a painting, get a house, get a car. Remember, Betty gets the flower shop. Ann and Chia get nothing item-wise. They're just going to get cash, right? So what does Ann get? Ann does not get the flower. She gets nothing in items minus, what does she think is fair? 110. So that comes out to negative 110.
So Ann gets 100%.
So Ann, well, but then we got to do the extra thing in a minute. Yeah, the surplus. But for now, we're thinking Ann's going to get 110,000. That's like the first phase, and they're going to push us on that on question 2. That's why that's so hard. They're going to ask you for the phase 1 numbers and then the phase 2 numbers. Notice how there's 2 phases, right? There's the first settlement, and then there's the extra money, the surplus given back, and then there's the final settlement. So do you see that? This is the first amount. So Ann should be given $110,000 because that's a fair share to her, and she didn't get any stuff. She didn't get the flower shop, the only item in this problem. So she should be given $110,000, right? You guys with me? It's getting messy. Next, what did Betty get? Betty got the whole stinking flower shop. I guess flower shops smell good. The whole nice smelling flower shop. She got the whole thing, didn't she? Minus fair share, right? See what I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to take what they got minus fair share. So that's what? $240,000 positive. So Betty should pay into the estate $240,000 because she was given the whole flower shop, which is worth more than what she thought would be a fair share. Right? Right? See what I'm doing, guys and gals? I just take what they get minus the fair share. And got nothing minus the fair share, negative 110. Betty got the flower shop, 360, minus her fair share. So every time, I'm just taking what they got minus their fair share. Next, Chia. What did Chia get? Nothing. Minus Chia's fair share, 100,000. So it's just negative 100,000. So Chia should be given 100,000, right? Because she thought that was a fair share, and she didn't get flower shop, so she should be given $100,000 in cash, right? Okay. Now, can we determine the surplus? How do you do the surplus? You just add up the pay get column. Yes, maybe I should just put it over here. Just right over here. So the surplus, if you just take the 240 minus 110 minus 100, what is that? It's 30,000. Surplus is 30,000. I just added these up. That's what the surplus is. To add up the pay get. Is that good? Right? Because Betty paid 240 into the estate and the other two took out. So there's 30,000 left over, extra surplus after that transaction.
What,
That make sense?
what if there's negative surplus?
There never will be.
Never.
Never. Because you're giving the most expensive, the highest bidder, the stuff. So it's always coming out, you're always going to have surplus. That's the genius of this method. Okay, so it's positive 30,000. Now what do we always do with that surplus? Divide by 3 and give it back, right? So surplus, divide by 3, so that's $10,000. So the surplus of $10,000 going back to each person, right? $30,000 divided by 3. 30,000 divided by 3 is 10,000 for each of them. Now, what is that gonna do? Here's the final deal. So what's gonna happen with Ann? Ann was gonna be paid $110,000 at first, but then she gets the surplus of another 10. So what's Ann getting in the end? $120,000. What about Betty? Betty got the flower. Am I going too quick? Is that good? Going on to Betty. Betty got the flower shop, $240. No, I'm sorry. Betty got the flower shop and then had to pay $240, right? Because she got so much value. She had to pay $240, but we're giving her 10 back. So what did she really pay in the end? $230. You subtract those, right? She paid $240 but got 10 back. Is that making sense? That's $230 down there.
So once you get the surplus, you divide by 3 to see what you get back.
Yeah, because that makes it even. You evenly break up the surplus. That's right. I divided the surplus by 3. And then finally, Chia got paid $100,000, $10,000 back from the surplus on top of it, so she gets $110,000 back in the end. There it all is. So that's why Ann gets 120, Ann 120, Chia 110, Chia 110. Those are the answers. They're right. Is that making sense? Getting the hang of the sealed bid thing? Shall we take a crack at number 2 with whatever time we can spare? Okay if I move off of that? Okay. So here we go. So, all right. There's the items in the table. Let's go item by item.
Oh,
There's 5 items. Who gets item number 1? Who bid the highest on item number 1? Alan. It's his. Right? He bid 23,000. He outbid the other 2 for item number 1. He gets it. I'm just going to circle them as we go. Who gets item number 2? Alan again. You with me? Alan again. Who gets item number 3? Carson in the middle. Right, I'm just picking the highest bidder for each item, right? They get the stuff. Item number 4, who gets it? Alan's going to go home with a lot of stuff, but he's going to have to pay a lot of cash back, isn't he? Who gets item number 5? Carson. Look at that. Bill got nothing, but he's going to get a lot of cash. So there's how we pass out the items. They'll ask you a bunch of questions about the items. There's how the items pass out. Let's come on down now and do the fair. Remember, first you do the fair. So let's do that. So fair share. How do we do fair share?
Add them all up.
Yeah, do we divide by 3 or do we divide by 5?
5. Because there's 5.
I'm trying to trick you. You were right the first time.
I know.
It doesn't matter the items. I'm not trying to trick you, but I want to make sure you don't get confused on the test.
Minus the people.
There's 3 people, right? We're dividing among the people. Doesn't matter how many items.
So if there's 5 people, we divide by 5.
That's right. It's the number of people, right? And that's what fairness is, right? It's fair among the people, not among the items. Right? You always divide by the number of people. So add vertically divided by number of people, right? That's our sense of fairness, that all the people get equal treatment, right? So that, which is 3 in this case. So add them up, divide by 3. So add vertically divide by 3. So yeah, so Bill, and we got to do the nearest cent. That's just terrible. So I'm getting some terrible numbers. Oh, I don't even have room to write these things. All right, I'm going to have to move it way over here. So fair, I'm getting 34,666.67. That's what I got for the first one. That's right here. For the second one, I'm going to add them and divide by 3. 18 plus. And let me know if I'm getting these wrong, Enriqueta. Divide by 3. Since it's just you and me doing the calculations, I guess. 67, is that right? You guys getting that? It's looking the same. That's the second one, and then the third one. Unless I'm pushing the wrong button. I would do this twice if it was my test grade on the line. I'd calculate, I'd hit the buttons twice because I know how easy it is to hit a wrong button. And this one would be 38,333.33. All right, do I get those right? Those are the fair shares for the 3 people. So now, next comes the pay get. And how do we do the pay get?
Whatever they want.
Yeah, what they got,
Minus or plus, whatever. Yeah, minus
what they got minus fair. Isn't that the way we did it?
Yes.
What they got minus fair. Yeah, that's what we did. What they got minus fair. So, okay, what did Bill, you guys with me? Am I racing ahead? What did Bill get?
Nothing.
Bill got nothing. Right? We gave Bill nothing. So Bill is 0 minus the fair share. So that's just negative the fair share. That makes sense? He's just going to get pure cash because he got nothing.
So when we go to Carson, you'll add up both of them and then subtract.
Exactly. So now we're going to Carson. Everybody good with Bill? Right? Bill got nothing minus the fair share. Right? It's what you got minus the fair share. That's how you know what you pay or get, right? So now coming to Carson, remember, this is all about reconciling what they thought was fair with what they were given, right? Bill was given nothing. Therefore, we owe him his whole fair share. That makes sense, doesn't it? Carson was given a couple of things, 20 and 26. So Carson, I don't have any room to write it. Carson was given 20,000 and 26. That's what he got minus his fair share, which is 31,666.67. So what's that? 46 minus 14,333 and 33 cents. So ridiculous they have us do cents. So good to there. Did you see that? Carson was given a $20,000 and a $26,000 items.
So you deduct it from the fair share, correct?
You take what they got minus what they wrote for their fair share.
Okay.
So I added up the two things that Carson got. The $20,000 and the $26,000. And I subtracted his fair share. Right? His fair share is $31,666.67. Is that good? Finally, for Alan, same thing. You got to add up. Alan was given a lot of stuff. 3 items for Alan. You got to add up all of Alan's items. So I'll do that right here. You got to add up 20. Is that 23? 23,000, 31,000, 18,000, and subtract Alan's fair share, which was 38,333.3. So I'm getting 33,666.67. There's the pay get numbers. That's what they're going to have to pay or get to make things even Steven. Right? We good with that? We're running out of time here. Let's wrap this one up. So, these are long. Next we've got to feed, and they ask you for those 3 answers, by the way. They ask you right here. How much does Carson pay get? Well, Carson's pay get is 14,333. There it is, see? 14,333. So they mean it first. So on this one they mean, what's his pay get? There it is. Okay. Now we got to do the surplus, right? The final phase. Surplus. How do you do surplus? You just add up the pay gets. Just use your calculator. And the minus is subtract, right? Add the 2 positives, subtract the minus 1, hit the equals button. That'll be the surplus. So take these 3. Surplus. Yeah. Surplus will be 14,333.33 plus 666.67 minus 666.67. So do all that, and you get the surplus. So I guess we'll do that. Oh, I messed up. I'm getting surplus is 1,333.33. Did you guys get that? That's the surplus. Surplus, so 1,333.33. 1,333.33. 1,333.33. And now we're ready finally to do the final. Oh, I'm supposed to divide by 3. Right? These are tedious. I'm supposed to take that surplus and divide by 3. I forgot. Right? Because that's the total surplus. The total surplus is the 1,333.33. But then you divide it by 3 because they each get a third of that, right? Oops, I think I just multiplied it by 3.
Yeah, I'm all messed up. There it is. That's right. 444. Yeah, I got it. So the surplus, they each get $444. Write it in blue. $444.44. $444.44. There we go. Do that. So there's, do everybody see what I did there? I took that surplus number and I divided it by 3. That's what gave me these numbers. Right? The surplus divided by 3. You get the surplus by just adding up the pay get. I added up the pay get, got $1,333.33 divided by 3. Got the $444.44. Now finish it up, right? But you got to be thinking about what it really means. So, or you'll do the wrong kind of thing. Bill got nothing. So it's all cash coming back to Bill. So Bill was already given $34,000 whatever. Add this much more for Bill's total. Right? Seeing that?
So for the surplus, to get the surplus, you have to add the 14,333.3 plus the 33,667.
Yeah, add up this whole row.
I got 13,333.
Oh, was I off by a digit? Let me just estimate. Yeah, you're right. I can tell by looking at it. It's 13,000. I'm tired of this problem. All right. So, yeah, I messed up. So this is not the right surplus. I'm off by a digit. Yeah. So you're right. It was that number. 14,333. 14,333. Yeah, I don't want to do anymore. We got to take the test. That's my excuse right there. Yeah, what was it? You got 13. What is it again?
13,333.33.
Yeah, so I was just off by a spot, a digit. Yeah, it's 4. And then you divide that by 3.
That's 4,444.44.
Yeah, 4,444.44. So 4,444.44 for all 3. That's each of them. So this is the total surplus. Thank you for correcting that. That's the total surplus. Then give them each a third of that and finish up the problem. All right. That's probably the hardest problem in the course right there, that number 2 on that section. That's painful. All right. We don't got time to keep fooling around with all this stuff. I'm going to stop there.